Yet Another Geek Show is brought to you by Audible. I hear that they have more than 7 books. If you check our link down in the description, you get 30 days free, an Audible book, a single book, maybe one of the 7, maybe more, I don't know, plus 2 Audible originals. The link is audibletrial.com/YAGS for Yet Another Geek Show. It's also in the description. Have fun. Hello and welcome back to Yet Another Geek Show, where this Discord is empty. Yeet! I'm your host, Alex Eckert.
I'm your host, Dalton Munnell.
I'm your host, Josh Keir.
I think I broke my mic when I yelled. Sorry.
I think you broke my will to live.
I think you broke our audience of 7.
Is that how many people we have in the Discord?
Actually, I think you're right.
No, it's 8 if you count us.
Oh, 8. Yeah, if you count us.
Yeah, catch our Discord link in the description and make it have more than 7 people in it.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Thanks.
I post memes.
We just posted a meme. Something about being on the beach.
I mean, it's not OC, so I can only mildly recommend it. Anyway, how goes it, bros?
It knows it.
All right, That was terrible. Guys, let's talk about Marvel announcements.
No.
It's the San Diego Comic-Con. Or it was.
No.
It happened. Or is it still happening? I don't know. I only care about the Marvel Day. Did you guys see the announcements at all, or am I announcing this all to you?
I don't know anything.
So I've seen some of the announcements. I saw I saw the new Thor, like Natalie Portman, the new Thor.
You know, it's a good thing we changed the scheduling of when we release these, because otherwise we would have days after this full Phase 4 announcement posted an episode and been like, guys, there's rumors that Thor 4 is happening.
I think it was for the better.
I'm aware of most of the announcements, but I haven't delved very deeply into any of them, so I don't know if they explained this in the announcement, but I'm a little bit confused because Thor, like Chris Hemsworth Thor, still exists, and obviously like he's hanging out in space now. So how is there, I mean, I guess I have to watch the movie to find out, how is there another Thor?
Yeah, valid confusion. I'm going to tackle these in release order though, and we'll get there.
Okay.
So
I have a theory already, but let's go.
All right. You don't need a theory. There's comics. This has been answered.
Hold on. Did you just fucking hiss at me like a cat?
Did I?
Did you seriously?
I'm not sorry. All right. The first announcement.
Oh boy, I am.
Okay. Marvel thinks we're dumb not having announced this yet when there's been set photos out for weeks, but they finally acknowledged that they're filming this Black Widow movie.
I mean, hasn't it been kind of obvious for a while now?
Like I said, literally set photos weeks ago. They just, I don't know. We've been hearing so many rumors and seeing like casting rumors that were all correct. So I don't know if rumor is the right word, but yeah, we did know a lot of this already, but they just, none of it was official. I guess they just wanted to wait until Phase 3 was totally over, and now it is. And now here's the entirety of Phase 4, plus a little bit of information on Phase 5. They've made this shorter now because TV shows are a part of the phase numbering, and they didn't used to be. Anyhow.
One step at a time.
Yeah, anyhow. Black Widow. I recall during our Endgame spotlight, me saying that it lessened my interest in this Black Widow movie because, spoiler alert, she did, and this is a prequel. And it's still kind of true, except that my boy Taskmaster is in here, and that's awesome. Huh. So, any further thoughts?
I feel like this is just a very mistimed movie.
Yeah, it feels like they kind of, well, we even said it in our Endgame spoilers discussion that like they wasted Scarlett Johansson and in the actual final movie of the Avengers. So it just feels like they're like, hey, remember that character? Come back here. We still have more to tell you.
Yeah, it really is just like why are you squeezing this out at the last minute? She really did deserve a movie a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's, why now? Why now?
Right.
This
right.
movie should have come out 5 years ago.
Yeah. However, like, I'm still going to be there day one. It's still Marvel. It's still going to be great. I still love Black Widow. I just would have preferred this movie 5 years ago. And my interest is a little bit higher now that Taskmaster's in there. I've been wanting him in a movie for a long time. And I think Black Widow is a good place to put him.
Now, is Scarlett Johansson going to be Black Widow in the movie, or is it someone else being a younger her?
It is her. And I don't know that we've seen this like de-aging tech work down to like the particular age they're going to have to take her.
Right.
This is kind of weird because she's, I don't know, I'm just going to guess 32. I have no idea. She's been doing these movies since...
Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah.
That sounds about right, actually.
Her first Marvel movie was 2010, so 9 years ago. Okay, they're going to have to de-age her down to like 20. Or maybe her teens.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see how that works.
I mean, CGI has gotten really advanced these days. Have you guys seen the Cats trailer?
You had me in the first half, not gonna lie.
Damn it.
I could have sworn they were just real ass cats. Like it was uncanny, you could say.
Oh, goodness. All right. That said, it's Marvel and I trust them, so whatever. Next announcement was a TV show that we've known about for a long time now that they've been pretending we didn't, and that is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier for Disney+. The only new information here is this does take place after Endgame. It's not a prequel. I had the vibe that like all of these TV shows were going to be prequels, and I was wrong. This does take place after Endgame. And they're bringing back Baron Zemo from Civil War. I'm really curious the context of that. He's been one of my favorite villains in these movies because he won, right? Like his goal was break up the Avengers, and he did. And the Avengers actually never came back together after that, despite having 2 more Avengers movies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, but I'm interested in the context here now of him returning, after the loss of Captain America and Iron Man, and I'm interested to see Captain Falcon.
Yes.
Yeah, and whether
the first move we see him do better be a punch.
I want to see, like, I don't know, these two characters just have had a really good vibe together.
Yeah.
And it felt like friendly ribbing towards each other. I never got the impression that these characters don't like each other, but I want to see if there's some conflict and resentment over one of them being specifically handed the shield. I know in this universe, I know in this world it made sense that it was Falcon, but I wonder if Bucky's going to understand and see it that way, or if he's going to be upset and there will be a bit of rivalry here.
I don't know if that's the case. I feel like Bucky would feel like he doesn't deserve it just knowing his character, but maybe the show will prove me wrong.
I mean, I assume so. I assume he's a selfless enough character to get it.
Sorry.
But it's interesting to me, though, that with a character like having an arc as big as replacing Captain America, like that he's sharing that story with another named character. It's just interesting to me that this isn't a Falcon show or a, Captain America show, they could technically call it. I'm assuming he doesn't get a suit until the last couple episodes, but it's interesting to me that it's not just that, it's the 2 characters. So,
right.
Yeah. In any case, I'm more excited for that than I am Black Widow. You know what? I guess we're going to get 2 entries in a row that feel a lot like The Winter Soldier. And The Winter Soldier might still be my favorite Marvel movie, so that's exciting.
It's still mine. I think we talked about this after our Endgame spotlight. I still think Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie.
Yeah. So the next announcement that we already knew about was the Eternals. And to be honest, even as a comic book reader, I don't know anything about these guys.
I don't know.
I think they officially announced the director, Chloe Zhao. I'm not familiar with her at all. They confirmed some of the cast, the standouts here being, to me, Angelina Jolie and I'm going to pronounce this wrong because I've never actually looked up how he says it, but Kumail Nanjiani. I'm most familiar with him through Silicon Valley. And Brian Tyree Henry is awesome. And those are the standouts of this pretty huge cast here. It's an ensemble cast.
Do we have like a synopsis for the show yet?
Well, this one's a movie, but the Eternals are... The gist of it, as far as I know, is they're godlike beings.
Okay.
And that's honestly about all I know. I'm really not familiar with this franchise. It feels a lot to me like when Guardians of the Galaxy was announced and even the comic book readers were like, who?
Okay, fair enough.
I'm definitely getting Who vibes from this right now. I've never even heard of the Eternals before.
Yeah, me either.
But I had never heard of Guardians, and then they became one of my favorite Marvel franchises. So
let's hope this pulls like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing then.
Right. So this is another, I don't know anything about it, but I trust Marvel and I'm excited enough on that level. Whatever.
Right.
This one gets interesting. We already knew a Shang-Chi movie was coming, but they announced the full title of the movie. And I don't know if the meaning of this is going to jump out to either of you, but it is called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Is anyone catching why that's important?
Isn't that an Iron Man reference?
That is an Iron Man reference. That's an all three Iron Man movies reference.
That's a reference directly to the Mandarin, isn't it?
This movie is about the Mandarin.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't recognize the actor, but I didn't recognize either of these actors or this director, but they announced the director, the actor for Shang-Chi, the actor for the Mandarin, and yeah, Mandarin's the villain here, and people are suspecting Shang-Chi as a comic book character in his roots. This is awful, but he was introduced as the son of Fu Manchu.
Lord.
And yeah, we can basically guarantee Marvel's not actually about to do that. And so people are suspecting that instead he'll be the child of the Mandarin, and we'll have some payoff for the reveal in a one-shot short film that I don't know if either of you saw, but there was like a short film where Ben Kingsley's fake Mandarin was broken out of prison to go face the wrath of the real Mandarin that he pissed off. And I thought we had just abandoned that plot line since, Iron Man never went back to it. But here we go, closing up a loose thread.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. I'm actually really looking forward to that because I just remember you getting me all hyped up about the Mandarin in particular when this was around the time that Iron Man 3 was coming out, or it had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
And you had shown me tons about it, and I remembered the rings in particular.
Yeah, and just, man, Ben Kingsley was so good in that movie, both before and after the reveal, that I wanted some crazy excuse to somehow let him play the real Mandarin. I don't know, the Mandarin is some kind of deity that takes over his body, and now Ben Kingsley gets to play that character.
Right.
He was so good. The next announcement was a Loki TV series. This is another one we already knew about.
I was just about to ask that.
I think the only thing they confirmed here, and I think we talked about this during our Endgame Spotlight maybe, and this doesn't really make sense to me, but I think one of you said it. It does take place after Endgame. And so apparently with that alternate timeline, Loki...
It's that alternate timeline where he gets the Tesseract and runs away.
Yes, which demonstrates to me again that I have no idea how time travel works in that movie, because that doesn't seem possible. In any case... This does feel, though, and I guess we'll see when we get there, but even though this technically isn't a prequel, it kind of feels like another like Black Widow, you're not really pushing this universe forward kind of thing, right? Because you're watching an alternate timeline character do alternate timeline things.
Okay.
That's probably why it's a television series.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just kind of there because the character is popular and Disney likes to make money.
yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine,
who's
though,
being Loki?
I mean, it's still Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, they're not recasting people for TV. Yeah, in any case, that's the thing. And I'm still, I don't know. I guess with Marvel starting to put out as much content as they are and having as much content as they already do, maybe I won't actually be that annoyed by having entries that don't push things forward.
Kind of
I
nice
guess
to
that's
have some
getting
things come out that feel optional.
Yeah, well, Josh, all the TV so far is optional.
Yeah, and I don't know. I may have an unpopular opinion with how the TV and the movie shows go. But I kind of prefer it just being the movies and not the TV show. Like, I mean, it's nice that the TV shows they're totally optional and you can watch them if you want. But I'm already so far behind that I feel like, meh, you know what I mean? Like, I know what's going on in the general story. I don't need all the hidden details. I can have that explained to me somewhere else.
Well, Alex, that's because, like Josh, you don't really watch movies unless I demand it. People that actually watch movies on a regular basis are not struggling to keep up. It's 2 or 3 movies a year.
Yeah, no, I know you're right.
So I mean, a movie every 120 days. That's no big deal.
Yeah, we're sitting here talking about this, and I still haven't seen Captain Marvel. So
I still haven't seen Doctor Strange or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, you'll be getting there for this very show.
Movies, my dude.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, at least Josh missed one of the worst ones.
See, I started Doctor Strange the other day. My internet kicked out, and I got so mad because I was watching it on one of the internet TV services that I have, and then I went to go to Netflix because I was like, oh, I know it's on there, and it wasn't. So I was like, you know what?
All right, we'll figure it out. Moving on with announcements.
Yeah.
This is another show that we already knew about and I'm excited about, but not for this awful, awful title, which is
that's gotta be WandaVision.
Yo, I was just gonna say that's gotta
be. I cannot possibly see them making that title make any sense to me.
I would love to hear how they localize that for other languages, because they're probably not going to be able to use as stupid of a pun in like Spanish.
It so barely qualifies as a pun.
And Josh, I actually think you said that in our Endgame episode.
Oh, really?
I think you did.
Yeah, I don't think we learned anything particularly interesting about this show, except that, well, you guys haven't seen Captain Marvel, but there was a young girl character introduced in that movie who in the comics eventually becomes a Captain Marvel. And apparently that character as an adult is in this show.
Okay.
So it's tying into a movie that I don't really care about, but whatever, world building, that's cool. This is more exciting. We knew, of course, that there would be a Doctor Strange 2. And we assumed they would bring back the previous director, Scott Derrickson, and they did. There are 2 interesting things here, and that is the title, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
And the fact that this movie also stars Scarlet Witch and ties into that TV show.
Oh, really?
So I'm just first going to say that title is ridiculous, stupid, awesome. I love the campiness of it. Multiverse of Madness. That's such a great like 80s thing. And, you know, confirming the real multiverse. And the fact that Scarlet Witch ties into this, I think starts to lean towards the idea that, I don't remember if I shared this during Endgame, but I know I've explained to you guys how I would bring X-Men into this world, which is, you know, my theory was that you put these characters in a world where Scarlet Witch has already wished all the mutants away without knowing it, and you have Doctor Strange introduce her to the multiverse to bring them back. Strange that she is in this multiverse movie. So maybe they're doing exactly what I came up with.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
I'm pretty excited for this. That's good stuff. And they did confirm without putting any dates or titles or actors on it and whatnot. But they did say, yeah, we're working on X-Men and Fantastic Four. It's coming. So
they got Fantastic Four back from Fox?
They own Fox.
Oh.
Yep. So there you go.
Disney owns everything.
So that pitiful movie that they tried doing to reboot the Fantastic Four, was that
canon?
Disney?
No, Alex, this just happened this year. Have we not had a conversation about this on the show?
I don't remember there being a conversation.
Disney acquired Fox this year.
Oh, okay. So there might be hope then.
Which is why I was discussing how I would bring the X-Men back into this world. Anyway, next announcement. This is very interesting, but another doesn't push the universe forward kind of thing. This is an animated MCU series.
Ooh, I like those.
Called What If? What If has been like a long time tradition in Marvel Comics, like all the way back to maybe the 60s of just making a one-shot comic called What If ... fill in the blank, whatever. Tell any what if story. They said the first episode of this show is going to be what if Agent Carter got the Captain America serum instead. And as often as possible, they are going to bring back in actors from the movies to voice act these roles in this show. And I've got a list of probably 20 people up here in front of me that I'm not going to read, but characters from all the franchises in this world are present here. And
that's awesome.
That's real branching out here. Like, not only are they saying, all right, we're going to start doing TV shows now, because Marvel Studios didn't do TV shows until now, but they're also saying, let's go animated. Oh, and let's go What If. So
that's
cool
going to be really cool. And it's kind of, I don't know if this is because DC has always been really good with their animation, and I'm curious to know if Marvel can beat them in that too, and not just movies.
I don't know. We'll see. I suspect Marvel's going to put more money into this than DC's ever put into their movies, their animated stuff. So
I don't know. Huh.
Wow. I'm catching an observation here that someone said they could see in the logo for this show a zombie Steve Rogers. So I guess they might do some Marvel Zombies stories. That's awesome.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Yeah, I collect Marvel Zombies. I love Marvel Zombies. Yeah. All right. Next announcement. Yet another one that we already knew about. No surprises here, but their Hawkeye TV series.
Okay.
This one is going to have Hawkeye training Kate Bishop, which is a second Hawkeye in the comics.
Eyes usually do come in pairs.
And
boo.
She's a really
boo, Alex.
Wow. Anyway, she's a really beloved character that's in a really, it's weird that this phrase exists, beloved Hawkeye comic. There's a particular run of Hawkeye comics by Matt Faction that I utterly love, and it's considered one of the best superhero book runs ever. And I recall, like, a long time ago, people realizing that because the movie Hawkeye feels so different from comic book Hawkeye and has quite a different, like, family background, people didn't really think they could ever touch that run of comics. And I didn't really think they could either. It's so different. But apparently this thing is full blown just adapting that. Like, they did like their little animated teaser announcement thing that they showed the audience there, and it was all modeled after the art style of this particular run. And and I'm way more excited for this than I used to be because it's an adaptation of that thing that I love. They also said that they're going to show more of his time as Ronin, which is great, because that was one of our complaints about Endgame, was that they introduced it and didn't really touch on it, and it went away immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
And they have what, like, if they're going with the Marvel Universe, what is it, 5 years of Ronin time to work with, or just...
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he
just
could have been Ronin for that whole 5 years. They could.
Okay, so, yeah.
I mean, I think these are all planned as miniseries, not ongoing shows, but if they wanted to, if they started doing follow-ups, yeah, they could do Ronin stuff for years. Granted, it would be more of that not pushing the universe forward that I was kind of complaining about, kind of not, but
just more filling in the gaps.
Yeah. So, all right, the next announcement, another movie that we knew about but had less information and not a title, Thor 4, which they did not title Thor 4 More Thor, but they instead titled
Thor 4 Shadows Die Twice.
And if you haven't seen this might rub you wrong for a moment. You have to think about this for a moment. And I ended up being really happy with it. But it is called Thor Love and Thunder. Which
I
is
like it a lot.
Which is the most ridiculous shit I've ever read. It gave me a solid 5 seconds of what? Followed by that's incredible.
That's awesome.
That
I
is
like
so
it a
Taika
lot.
Waititi. That's fantastic. Everyone's pretty surprised about Natalie Portman coming back. That shot she had in Endgame, I recall us not really being sure if they like hired her back in to take that shot or if they somehow made that out of unused footage that already existed. Natalie Portman was really unhappy with being in this franchise because her character sucked. And those movies weren't that good. And her character was the weakest part of them. And but I guess when Taika Waititi comes to you and says, yeah, I'm going to give you a real role, you take it.
Yeah,
So,
and what an upgrade that she's getting.
becoming a title character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And this whole occurrence in the comic of her becoming a female Thor, this is a thing that at the time, a lot of like anti-SJW kind of people that don't actually read comics but want things to complain about were really upset about it.
Right.
But as far as I know, these comics have actually been really well received by the people that bothered to read them. I recall reading it for maybe just a single story arc after it happened, long enough to get the gist of what was going on. And I mean, it seemed like a good idea to me. I remember enjoying it at the time. I've learned a little bit more about it recently, just out of curiosity to see where this might go. And yeah, I don't know. It seems like good stuff. It seems like people like it. Like that story's been good.
Now that you bring this up, Dalton, I remember the big, like the whole, the woman and Thor argument that everyone had. And I remember being confused by it, and you straightened it up for me, because in the comics, it wasn't that Thor turned into a woman gained the title of Thor.
Yes, that was a major difference that the people just seeing the clickbait weren't understanding. Right. And for a lot of them, that didn't actually make the situation any better. But so many people thought literally Thor Odinson was being made a female. Just here's a huge retcon, and that's that, which that would be frustrating, especially because it's not like there was some big universe reboot. That would be an arbitrary, I don't know, this major character is a girl now. But it wasn't that. It was a girl becomes Thor. That's not the same thing. People were still mad about that. What are you going to do?
It's funny how often people get mad about things that they're not even interpreting the correct way. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I don't know if either of you guys have watched the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, but they're working on another one now, and they just announced that a woman, I can't remember the actress's name, is going to be playing 007 in the new Bond movie, but she's not James Bond. James Bond is still in the movie. He just left MI6 at the end of the last movie. It's been a while, yeah, but if you care about James Bond enough to freak out that you think that they're making him a woman for no reason, you'd probably have seen the movies to remember that, like, he left the organization, so they gave his number to somebody else. But I saw so many people on the internet going basically ape shit that, like, they're taking everything away from us. There's no way that there's no way you can make James Bond a woman. But dude, like, Daniel Craig's still in the movie. What the fuck do you think they're doing with him if he's not James Bond?
Right. And
exactly.
And when this announcement happened, like, I saw a clickbait article that had me confused until I clicked on it and read past the headline. Because, yeah, the headline is the intentionally misleading so-and-so is next 007, which you know, instinctively, because it's what they wanted you to do, you assume that means James Bond, and you go, what the hell? And then if you bother to click past the clickbait headline, you see what's actually going on, and it's no big deal, whatever.
Yep, but people just read the headlines, don't read the article, and get angry about what the headline says.
Yeah, around this same period of time as this Thor stuff is when Sam Wilson, the Falcon, became Captain America, and all these people that didn't read comics but wanted to get offended on behalf of comic book readers anyway were all, oh, so what, Captain America's black now?
Right, I remember that.
It's like, technically, but not in the way you're interpreting that.
Asgard is its people, not a place.
Yeah. In any case, it is a little confusing and weird that like mantle passing is a long held tradition in comic books. And it actually isn't even the first time it's happened for Thor, although I'm not familiar enough with the other instances to delve in on it. But it is weird for a character whose name is just his name to be mantle passing.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It was.
But the idea is, like, wielding Mjolnir gives her the powers of Thor.
Right.
And then Thor, being unworthy and feeling that he is unworthy, says that he is on a mission to go find himself and that he is not worthy of the name either. And he bestows the name onto her and continues on with his own comics running at the same time where he's just called Odinson.
Interesting. Okay.
And that might be the case here, that like Guardians 3 isn't happening until Phase 5. It might be the case that he shows up in As Guardians of the Galaxy and he's just Odinson.
Dalton, can you spell that for me? Because it sounds like it should be Odin's son.
It is Odin's son.
That's like the Scandinavian like naming convention.
Okay, because the way you're saying it sounds like more like IN instead of ON at the end, and it was confusing me.
I've been kind of going back and forth to make the point that like you pronounce it Odinson, but it's because it's spelled Odin's son.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Loki, the son of Laufey, is also Loki, Laufey's son.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Just a weird Scandinavian thing.
I'm uncultured. I apologize.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm immensely excited for that and glad that they kept Taika back. And it is so weird that if I could have chose which original Avenger gets a fourth movie, I was rooting for Thor.
Yeah.
All right. This last announcement actually was a surprise. This really came out of nowhere. There weren't really even rumors of this. Mahershala Ali came out on stage and revealed that he is Blade.
Oh, I did see that they were doing a Blade movie, correct?
Yeah, and that's going to be Phase 5.
One.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people forgot that Blade was a Marvel property.
A lot of people definitely didn't know. I know that I didn't know at the time. I didn't know until I started reading comics in 2011.
Oh, okay. That's about the same time that I found out too, because they had the Blade animated series, right, along with Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. That was a handful of animes coming out at the same time, but he's also had a live action series before that nobody's ever seen. But you know, those Blade movies, I've seen like in conversations about what comic book movies are responsible for making comic book movies what they are today. When people are trying to give the credit to Spider-Man or X-Men, people will be like, yeah, well, Blade came out first. That was a big deal. And it's like, yeah, it did, but people didn't know that. That didn't affect the perception of comic book movies because people didn't know. It was just a badass vampire movie. It wasn't a superhero movie.
Right.
It's gonna feel weird not being rated R now, unless Marvel's gonna start being willing to do that now that they have Deadpool.
Yeah, so this movie's not gonna be rated R.
I mean, I would assume not, because Marvel Studios has done nothing but PG-13. But I don't know. Maybe having Deadpool now will change that consistency. They said they're not going to tone down Deadpool. I wonder if this could be the start of, you know, if they're going to go in and keep Deadpool rated R, maybe once every couple of years you do another rated R movie, and maybe you keep them lower budget to help justify it. Like Logan made its money back and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe do it with characters that aren't really going to push the overarching story all that forward. Like, I can't imagine Blade being a big contributor to the next Avengers movie when it happens.
Right.
So,
and Deadpool is actually a pretty big staple in X-Men, and he has 2 rated R movies now.
Yeah, so maybe yes and no. Deadpool's a mutant and he's a big deal, but he's not actually in a lot of X-Men comics.
Yeah, okay. I correct my statement with yours.
But that said, that could just be the approach now. Like, you can have kind of the way that, we don't think Black Widow's really going to push anything all that forward, or What If isn't really going to push anything all that forward. Maybe Blade doesn't really do it, and intentionally so that it's no big deal if nobody sees it. Or maybe it's going to be PG-13 and it's going to suck. Or maybe it's going to be PG-13 and that doesn't really matter because it's not like the comics are rated R. We're just wanting it because the previous movies were. So
yeah, that's possible.
I do have one big concern that hampered my excitement, and I don't know if this caught either of your attention when I said it, but Mahershala Ali, him playing this role, he's perfect for the role. I love it. I'm excited. However, he's been in the MCU already. Did they just make the Netflix shows not canon?
Who was he in the Netflix?
He is Cottonmouth in Luke Cage.
No, I never watched Luke Cage, so.
Yeah, me either. But I've never seen it.
He was a villain in that show and one of the best villains in the whole Marvel universe. He was incredible in that show. And them knowingly reusing him here, it concerns me that they're... For a moment, I thought, are they considering all the TV up to this point non-canon? Because now Marvel Studios is producing their own shows rather than Marvel TV, which is a different studio, making all the shows. But Endgame acknowledged human Jarvis from the Agent Carter series. So I guess that's canon. So maybe it's just Netflix, or maybe it doesn't mean anything and Netflix is still canon and they just don't care that they're reusing an actor.
Yeah, that's well, because at the time, never mind, because I was going to bring up the Fantastic Four thing with the Human Torch and Captain America, but that's also kind of like this movie doesn't exist now.
So this isn't the first time this has happened where an actor has been reused, but the only other instance where it's been really noticeable and somewhat of a big deal, also involving Luke Cage, but I don't know if the character even had a name, but in Civil War, the woman that comes to Tony Stark and blames him on her son's death, if you recall this scene, she was also a villain in Luke Cage. And I guess what happened there was just Marvel TV and Marvel Studios don't really communicate, and they didn't realize that they both cast her at the same time. There's been other instances where it's just been really minor characters and, oh well, who's gonna notice? But this is the first instance of doing it intentionally in an instance where people are going to notice. There's no way that they wouldn't. And I don't know. I love a good chunk of the Netflix shows, but I don't know. At the end of the day, maybe it doesn't matter if they're non-canon because it's not like the movies were ever going to acknowledge the events of them anyway. But I was having fun with the possibility in my head. Like, why couldn't you have put Daredevil in the next Spider-Man movie? Or Netflix's Punisher in the next Spider-Man movie? Why couldn't you do that? And it just feels less likely now.
Right. Which makes me very, very sad because I loved both of those series very much.
Yeah, I mean, it already felt unlikely, but even more so now. So, this Blade announcement is the biggest yay and nay I've experienced with this universe.
I just hope that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still canon. Otherwise, Coulson's not alive anymore. And that would make me sad. I much prefer...
Josh, are you caught up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I am not. Is he dead anyway?
I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, well.
All right. That was the end of the Marvel announcements other than the the quick mention that, yeah, we're also working on Fantastic Four and X-Men and Guardians 3. And technically it's Sony's place to announce another Spider-Man movie, not theirs. But yeah, that was the gist of it. And I did not leave us a lot of time to discuss anything else. So I guess I'll just shove one thing quick out there for me, which is my VR game of the week. Much like last week, where I did a classic mobile game ported to VR, this week I played Angry Birds VR. Which,
holy shit, that exists.
It does. And it's awesome.
It's bird-based homicide?
Yes. And I don't know if you guys like remember when the original Angry Birds came out, and it was a great game that wasn't ruined by microtransactions, where it was yeah, I'm playing this on a phone or a tablet, and it makes sense that I am, and it's not, it's a real game, not just a money-making machine. And that franchise is ruined and stupid and dead to be now, except that this VR game was a real game, and it was awesome, and it was exactly what Angry Birds is. There's no surprises here, but the gameplay does change a good bit by the fact that it is in a 3D environment now. So your aiming and your physics used to be purely two-dimensional, but now the structures are 3D structures, and you have to strategically place yourself around the structures to see what kind of different shots you can get at different angles. And you're not just considering anymore, oh, is this piece of the structure going to fall to the left or to the right? Yeah. It can fall in any direction. So it was nice to be visiting a classic game that I really liked at one point in time, and to have this extra nice spin on it. It was pretty short, but also pretty cheap, so I'm not mad, and they are still adding new content to it without calling it DLC and making you pay for it.
Right. Okay. So that's
good. Yeah. At the same time, of course, not a game changer for VR, but fun, worth playing. Definitely buy it on a sale. I had a good time. Josh, what do you got?
Enough.
So I don't have a whole lot of new stuff that I've played this week. I have been playing Celeste, but I haven't finished it yet, so I don't want to talk about it too much right now. How many chapters am I done with? Either 4 or 5. I feel like I'm maybe about halfway through. That's just kind of the vibe I get about the length of the game, but we'll see. I don't know. I like it a lot so far, but I'm gonna hold off on speaking more about it until I'm fully done. I know that I'm not the first one of us to play it, correct?
I actually have it, and I've barely started it, and I forgot that I have it.
Well, there we go.
Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I own every game that's considered a fantastic modern day 2D platformer. And there's way too many of those, and I just forgot.
I over the weekend, Xbox Game Pass, which I've been using since it announced for PC. They did a tech thing for Gears 5, and it was just like here, play the multiplayer over the weekend, where you should have 5 different modes between Horde mode, which is you get together with a bunch of friends and you survive the Horde. It's like 50 different waves or so.
I used to play Horde mode in Gears, I think 3. With
3 was really
with a friend
fun.
of mine. Yeah, back in high school, we played Horde mode on Gears 3 like all the goddamn time. It's so fun.
It was so much fun. Then there's deathmatch, where you just are on teams. There were a few different modes, but the problem that I had with it was I didn't get to pick what mode I was playing, and I never seen anything else except team deathmatch. It was really cool because I wanted to see super quick on different things. I did a quick benchmark of the game on my computer, and they played a scene of the game, much like, any benchmark would, but it looked really good. It was in a scene during the winter months in the game. And those who are familiar with Gears know things like the Razor Hail, which is it's just like a hailstorm in real life, except when it hails, the pieces of ice that fall from the air are razor sharp. and super cool atmospheric thing because you have to work around the weather in like a particular scene in Gears 2, I think it is. But this one looked really good because there are these giant ice crystals just slamming down into the ground and everywhere. Well, not everywhere. It only showed it like a few times, but it was good because like they would drop, you could get to cover and shoot around. The graphics in the game, if this is what the beta is, I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's all done. It looks a lot like Gears 4, but Gears 4 looks fantastic. It didn't seem like, aside from not being able to pick what mode I wanted to play, the team deathmatch, I did play a couple rounds, and for me, team deathmatch just kind of gets stale real quick. But it didn't seem to me like there was any connection or lag issues or anything inside like the game files being broken. So that's a huge promise. I don't know. I'm super excited to see where the series goes after the fourth installment of the game series. I don't know. I'm a Gears fan, and I'm really excited for it.
I'm a Gears fan too.
I need to get the other 3 books.
For some reason, I've always felt more comfortable playing third-person shooters as opposed to first-person shooters. I don't know why that is, but and I've always found that I've really enjoyed them more. In the Gears series, I mean, it does not get much better than like co-oping a Gears of War campaign with a buddy.
Yes, exactly.
I have so much nostalgia for the first 3 games. I've actually never played Gears 4, but I heard it was pretty much more Gears of War, which is not that bad. And Horde mode is just so much fun. I really like those kind of cooperative. It's almost like a mixture of tower defense and a shooter. So I know this is this coming to PC as well as Xbox? Yeah, because I may actually pick it up if I can get on PC.
Dude, maybe you and I could let's play it for the channel if you pick it up, because I know I am.
Microsoft from this point forward only publishes games that are both Xbox and Windows.
Yeah, see, like,
which is great for me, but it's just another reason why I don't know why anybody like I don't see a reason to own an Xbox. But I guess I guess right now you get an Xbox if you don't want to shell out for mid to high end gaming PC.
Well, here's a nice memory that I have actually, because my wife and my father-in-law both own Xbox Ones, and I owned my PC at the time, and we were all 3 playing Gears of War 4's Horde mode through crossplay, which was awesome.
I know very little about Gears except that first game's trailer with Gary Jules' Mad World is like the best game trailer that's ever happened. That's about all I've got on that note.
I think that was Gears 3's trailer.
Was it?
Because the scene that trailer's from, they actually used the song in Gears 3's, like, the big scene, if I'm not mistaken.
Has it been that long since Gears 3? Because I feel like I've known this song most of my life, and I learned it from that trailer. In any case, that's all I know about the franchise. I'm grossly unfamiliar. I believe I've played Horde mode once for a half hour a decade ago, and I don't even know in what game.
Well, there's 4 books actually for the series too. I own one of them, and I need to get the other 3.
I didn't know there were books.
Yeah. Last I checked, there's 4.
Damn. There's books for everything, Nerdy Josh. No exceptions.
Wonder if you can get those books on audible.com.
Man, I wish I would have checked.
Let us know on our Discord.
That's right.
All right. So I got really hyped after these Marvel announcements enough that I started really reading comics again, like went online, restarted my Marvel Unlimited subscription and that kind of things. Wanted to see how I could catch up on what's been going on recently. And
gonna need to give me those account credentials again.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to start turning half of each episode into comics because I'll probably go through a graphic novel a day. But instead, I'll probably rush through them. Like I'll probably start coming in, and at least with the Marvel books, because I'm going to read so many I'll just be like, oh, I read 5 of them. Give me 5 minutes total to talk about it, and I'll rush through. But this one, I'll start doing that next week because we're running low on time. But I am going to talk about a comic that wasn't Marvel, and that is The Adventure Zone: Murder on the Rockport Limited.
Oh, I seen your Snapchat about
yeah,
that.
I saw your snap. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, so most of my comments are... Honestly, it's going to be hard to keep talking about this moving forward because my comments would be identical to the first book. Just this podcast translated really well into graphic novel form, and this artist is kicking ass and adding new layers of comedy that, you know, just couldn't be there without visuals. And as for this particular story arc, Jenkins and Angus and Garfield the Deals Warlock are still some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in anything.
Yes. See, I actually took your recommendation and started listening to The Adventure Zone.
Oh, yeah?
However, I only got to the second episode just because the day that I chose to listen to it was a really hectic one and I had to constantly pause it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So without spoiling any of that arc for you, I will say that a little bit is lost without Griffin McElroy's voice acting.
Oh, really?
Like, I know what Jenkins sounds like, and so I can imagine it, but the voice he gives that character is so much of the humor.
That's my shitty Jenkins impression.
Right. And it's the same for Angus. He just has a really good Angus voice that, yeah, if you know it already, you can imagine it. But if you had just picked this up off the shelf, you wouldn't know that. And so it's a trade-off. You lose the humor of Griffin McElroy's great voices. You gain the humor of this incredible artist, if I'm pronouncing this right, Carrie Peach. Yeah, I recommend the hell out of this, even if you don't listen to the podcast. For those that don't know, this is an adaptation of one of the biggest D&D podcasts. But if you're not interested in D&D, this thing's still really entertaining and charming. And the only reason you can tell it's about D&D is because of the fourth wall breaks of the DM popping into the frame to make comments.
And read that comic book while you listen to our podcast instead.
Yeah. There is something interesting I'm going to point out here that I like it. This is a good thing. But some of the characters, those being Angus and the director of the Bureau of Better Balance, these characters, Josh, are black in these comics, which was not stated in the podcast as far as I remember. And I like it because it points out a weird bias in my head where, especially if I'm listening to or reading something fantasy, I just assume by default that everyone's white until I'm told otherwise. And it really shouldn't be that way, but it's just how it is.
I remember hearing that the director was black. I can't remember if they mentioned it in an episode or if that was something that Griffin mentioned on the Adventure Zone at some point, which is their show about a show that they have a few times over the course of the show where they answer some fan questions and talk about some behind the scenes things. I didn't know that about Angus, but that's awesome.
Yeah, and I do wonder if that was always Griffin's intention or if the artist here made that call.
I don't know.
Taco's also blue, which I technically don't remember hearing in the podcast, so that's technically a creative liberty.
Well, I remember the McElroy brothers saying that they really liked how in all the fan art that they were getting, the characters looked so different based on the artist that was representing them because they had never really given an official description to any of these characters besides Magnus has really big sideburns.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Which one had the pocket knife?
That's Magnus.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. That's Magnus.
And a fucking dragon pops out of it, and he was there the whole time, and he loves me.
Magnus looks exactly how you're imagining him, for the record, Alex.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But and then they went on to explicitly avoid giving canon descriptions of the appearances of the characters because they really wanted it to be up to the interpretation of the fan artist when they were doing that. And it's really interesting the way that some of these characters have sort of evolved into a semi-canon like fan appearance where Taco pretty much looks like like if you see fan art of Taco, you can tell that it's Taco. He's not always blue, but you know, he's pretty like tall and slender and kind of effeminate looking and
right. You somehow still know when you're seeing fan art of this series, even though they don't have canon appearances.
Right. It's really interesting that way. And now that I went on this whole fun fact rant, I'm wondering if I actually did hear them say that the director was black, or if that was just something that I had seen in different fan art and was like, yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, perhaps.
Huh.
So I got to catch up on my zone lore.
Yeah. All right. We good to end this here, bros?
I think so.
I suppose.
All right. This has been yet another Geek Show. Thanks for listening. Sorry that was almost entirely about Marvel, and it'll only be a third about Marvel next time.
Goodbye.
Peace.
Yeet.